Okay, so today I'm here to introduce Afterspyre. It's really a unique engine which is built on proprietary algorithms. It has a quantitative and semantic analysis engine which helps to reduce uncertainty, solve business issues, and support management decisions. Of course, today we heard about different challenges being faced by the analysts, and some of the key challenges are they aren't really educated in the methodology to be used. They could use the wrong methodology and it would cost too much time, and of course, it costs too much of money. So let's introduce Frank. So Frank's here. He's the business analyst, and he's going to support the management and the CEO to allocate $10 million over 10 projects, which of course total $21 million. Now, normally this is done as a thumb suck. Using Afterspyre, we could actually import data, in this case from Excel, but we could import from any database, a bpmN2 tool, Visio, or pretty much any other format. Bring this into the application, and in this case, we will rank it based on cost, benefit, and time to implement, and use this to create something called a composite ranking. Now, the composite ranking guides the management in understanding that what are the key benefits. So the highest ranking ones, of course, are the most beneficial to the management. And rather than presenting this on Excel to the CEO who doesn't like Excel, you can use the Afterspyre four-box graphs to show him what I call pretty pictures, and then he can, in this case, the analyst can then support the management in really understanding which strategic objectives to be used. Now, of course, you also want to understand, as part of a workshop, these initiatives which we chose, how do they map to the strategic objectives, and what are the risks which then impact the strategic objectives based on this. So as part of a second workshop, you can map the risks to the initiatives, and using Afterspyre, we can then do what is called an inference model, whereby we inference the two matrices. We can inference the strategic objectives and initiative matrix, the initiatives and risk matrix, and create a third matrix model using Afterspyre, which is risks related to strategic objectives. Now, this happens at the management and CEO level all the time. Of course, a lot of time they are working on Excel, and it really doesn't, it's not very visual. Also, Afterspyre is used in cases of best fit for process acquisition. So you're trying to put in two companies together, understanding what are the complementary processes, what are the desired unique processes. You can import the process listing of processes from your BPMN tools and actually run what is called a two-model comparison. I'll demo this later, to understand which are the complementary processes, which are the processes which actually add value. You can visualize this by carrying out word frequency analysis to show that in this case it's a manufacturing company, which are the processes which are common, which are the processes which are unique. And in this case, it's easier to communicate the same to the CEO. Once you decide to acquire, you want to then look at the production process of the new organization, export data from your BPMN tool, understand your cost, your resources, and try and understand, is it worth the while? Is it an efficient process? Again, I have more examples. You can export this into XML from any BPMN tool and then decide what attributes to use, whether it is cost, time, resources. And once you have all the data within Afterspyre, you can then generate your process analytics to understand. So in this case, a Pareto diagram, just as an example. But really, the whole point of Afterspyre is that you have a common repository for all this information, what you're pulling in from different parts of the business. And this makes it important because you have something now what is called as a shared catalog. And the shared catalog helps you to do the quantitative and qualitative analysis using also semantic models, which then help you to create better decisions based on stuff which is actually stuck in all these other tools. So the standard statistical tool, the calculation engine, also delivers well-defined analytics such as ranking, impact, comparison, semantic, and we'll demo some of this. Some of the key benefits of Afterspyre, like I mentioned, was to leverage the semantics trapped in other tools such as Excel, architecture tools, BPM tools. You have a combination of qualitative and quantitative insight and gives you alternate solutions. You could also link subjective and objective attributes to your problem areas. Now, Afterspyre is a beta product, okay, but it's used by consultants, BPM tool owners. We've touched industries like banking, manufacturing, retail, defense, healthcare, security. And really, it supports insightful management solutions. So we'll quickly switch over into the demo. Yeah, so pretty much the analysts, once they actually get in, they will log into Afterspyre. You can of course have your bookmarks, you can have your home screen, but I'll very quickly show you how we can do your attribute ranking, as I showed you. So in this case, I can choose different projects, and for each project, in this case, I have my initiative prioritization project. I can choose what are the different attributes. So in this case, I want to find out the shortest time to implement, the highest benefit as ranked, and of course, I want to have the least cost. So once I define the set of attributes, I can generate, and as I generate this, based on the output, it'll tell me that implement quality management training, the rank index is 2, and addition of a new production line at manufacturing unit X, you're talking about, this is not really the one which you have to look at. Looking at that, I can create this into a chart very quickly. So I'll generate a 4-box chart here, and in this case, I'll create a matrix model. I'll configure it, decide what I want to see. So I want to see time to implement on the X, the benefit on the Y, and really the cost as the size of the button. I can show my legends at the bottom, save this, and generate. So in a matter of minutes, you got a nice 4-box. You can tell the CEO, okay, these are the guys we want to look at. These are too expensive, too much time. And all of this data can then go into a bookmark or into a management dashboard. Now, coming to the two-model analytics, we spoke about comparison of the processes. In this case, I can compare 2 processes. Because, of course, people don't talk about things in the same way, in this case, I'm going to use the semantics and say, I want to do an 80% match. So I will choose my existing company processes. Then I will choose the target company processes. And, of course, these are set up very quickly. And I can then generate. So in this case, I have a listing of my processes. I have all the processes of the target company. And then I have a comparison, which is nice. So I know that we share these capabilities. These are the capabilities which we have, which they don't have. And of course, these are the capabilities which we are really interested in terms of casting, drop forge, and that sort of a thing. And I have my summary, which is here, which then tells me the percentage, as well as in terms of certain numbers of this. So it's very easy to get this up as a matter of minutes. Of course, importing data into Afterspyre is very, very quick. Through any source. Even from the database, we can import very, very large sets of information. Now, according to most organizations, we'll have a list of dashboards. We'll talk firstly about now looking at the processes of one organization. As we showed, we can look at our keywords versus the keywords of the target company. And you can have that automatically in a bookmark. You can see what are the top keywords here, number of relationships, and there are certain settings whereby we can ignore normal standard words like off and it and those sort of things. If you talk about process ranking comparison, now this is fairly interesting. You can look at when I rank the processes based on different attributes such as the impact, likelihood, risk cost, recommendation, and impact effect. And I'm looking at our processes and the target company processes. You can see all of this, but I can do what we call analytics within analytics or case-sensitive analytics. So in this case, I'm looking at the box plot chart. Frank, why don't you come in and quickly talk a bit about this? So this is where the analyst is needed.
Yeah, we develop most of the algorithms for this.
Yeah.
You have a lot of choices of the analytics that you can use for those who do quantitative analysis. There are about 20 different statistical things you can do with the quantitative part of this data. There are a bunch of different things you can do with the semantic part of this data also. Most of them that people use are like right here. They're in this set of icons here. But if you're looking at a box plot, you're looking at your outliers and you're looking at the range. Those of you who look at stock charts, can you hear better with this? Those of you who have looked at stock market charts are familiar with the box plot concept and the idea where you see the outlier, the range, And you can compare then this range with this range, for example, and see that, okay, one set of processes has a much greater range than the other set, much more variance in their performance, and that may be where you want to start to take a look at how well you can merge the two sets of processes. Now, if you want to look at, take a look at them in terms of a bar graph, you can do this, and you can take a look at this one in terms of a bar graph, and you'll see some differences between them. And you can actually tell a little bit, this doesn't work real well here, you can tell a little bit based on these heights here. So you've got two characteristics here, but you can see based on these heights here and these heights here how the box plot was developed. Those of you who have a quantitative background will see that pretty quickly. So that pretty much explains how you would use this particular dashboard. When you get into managers, they like to see the summary stuff. They're there to help you make a decision, right? So you're going to be supporting their decision-making capability. They don't want to have to think it through. They want to look at what's going to be my option and what decision you want me to make. I will make that decision, and then we'll go from there. Okay.
Okay. I have a mic. You can.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. I'd also like to show you a couple of things about the semantics. So if you look at really the semantics, we can do the word frequency we showed you, but we could also do phrase analytics. And you can do phrase analytics on a complete project. You could do phrase analytics on, let's say, processes. And you could do phrase analytics on a website, or you could, during the election, we were doing phrase analytics on Trump's speeches versus Clinton's speeches. But, and then you can decide whether you want to, include the prepositions. Okay, so I need to put in a word count. So let's say maybe 2 words here. Okay. And see, there is nothing in here, okay, with 2 words. Maybe I'll look at something else, which is,
Look at the bottom one here.
This is the bottom one here.
Okay. Don't pick a model. Pick a repository or something.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
He's controlling the scope of the
Yeah.
semantics.
Okay. So you can decide. In this case, we have casting, and it works better when you can actually connect using a text file, or you can connect using in terms of, it depends, garbage in, garbage out. So you need to have some interesting data. But the whole purpose of this is to understand, for example, you're talking about what marketing message is out there on our website, or for example, what are the keywords which you use versus the keywords which your competitors use. So you can analyze that and try and understand exactly how things are working. Okay. Coming back to let's say, so we are looking now at an example of a process improvement opportunity, whereby we can now compare again process A with process B. And in this case, we have the wait time, and then we have at the bottom here the cycle time. And it becomes easy for us to understand all the processes in the organization. Again, and we have the process performance and cost, and we have the process performance and risk. So of course, it will take a lot of time to go through this. The whole point is that as of today, there are no applications which allow you to do this automatically. What you need to do is you have to use Excel and then create a presentation in terms of this. But pretty much all this information can come in from your standard BPM process tools, from Excel. You can even import data from a database, depending on what is it that you want. I'll very quickly show you a bit about the back end, where the application comes in. So this is where you create all the analytics. And in this case, you have the catalog. So the catalog holds information from multiple areas. You can have, in this case, our insightful analytics solution. You could have a BPM model. You can have an EA model. So all of this can be put in there. If you come to the modeling part of it, you can view different types of models. So we can have our list models. So the list models, so in this case, this was my initiative prioritization model, which I imported in. I can have a risk model, which could also be imported in, and the different process models in this case. So all of this could be imported from a BPM tool. You can also import attributes, things like impacts, likelihood, costs, remedial impact efforts, and all of this can then be put in to create your analytics. One good thing about Afterspyre is you can import base data and create attributes within the tool itself. So as you would within Excel, create different columns and then put in values and then create analytics, you can do that within Afterspyre itself. So you don't need to have all the information in your tool or in another solution. You could actually mix and match, and this is where having a unified catalog is very, very important, because I can take data from, partly from a tool, partly from, data what has come from, let's say, a workshop, put it together and start creating some meaningful analytics. Coming to the matrix models, so in this case, we spoke about mapping strategies to the initiatives and mapping initiatives to the risks. So you can actually create the relationships here as part of the tool. What is important, Afterspyre will tell you the relationship count, so I can understand by row how many relationships are there, and I can understand those with the highest percentage of relationships. So in this case, I have evaluate, build, or buy alternatives has the highest number of relationships in terms of the initiative. If I'm looking at my risks down here, you can see my highest risks are maintaining IT systems and operational infrastructure. So you can actually inference things like your strategy to initiatives to risks, all the way down to maybe critical systems or nodes, depending on what exactly you want to see. Looking very quickly at your flow models, we just have a few examples here, and like I said, this is, you can actually, our intent is not to replicate a BPM tool, but simply to visualize some of the information what we are creating on a flow diagram in terms of this. The import and export part, we can import from, like we said, multiple sources like Excel, bpmN2, Visio, also Afterspyre, or even a DB import. And all that information can be pulled into the catalog, and you can actually start building the analytics from this. Not enough time to show you how to really build an analytic, but in terms of, we can have multiple, let's say, multiple projects, and each project can then be imported and exported to a different analyst. So I've created a project, I can always send it to Frank, and Frank can then continue working with that in terms of actually sharing information. Of course, all this is on a central server, and it's web, mobile accessible in terms of this. Anything else you'd like to push through, Frank, in terms of?
No, a lot of the reasons why you do these analytics, and there are a lot of reasons why you do the analytics. For example, when you do the inferencing, you're looking at points of impact. I want to know if I'm going to have something external to the enterprise, a change in the environment, what's the impact on my strategies, then what's the impact on my initiatives, what's the impact on my projects, what's the impact on my systems, and so on. So you have chains of inferencing that you want to do to accomplish this. And that's one of the biggest uses of inferencing. There's a lot of analytics in the tool. It's really hard to show that in a short amount of time like this. But the key thing is this product has both a combination of semantic and quantitative types of analytics. It is designed to help improve the productivity of an analyst, okay, whatever the type of analysts there are. And we had a list of like 35 different types of analysts at one point. So, and we found out this is a weak area, and people don't want to do the analysis. They try to jump directly from the problem to a solution. Just give me a solution and I'll implement it. I'll buy a package, I'll do this, I'll do that. So we do things like best fit, and we do matching of stuff, we do inferencing to find out impact, and we try to improve that type of performance. And coordinating things as an integration point in this product is really helpful. That's why we have the export-import, and the ability to integrate stuff from other products is important. There are good tools for modeling and drawing nice diagrams. We're not focused on that, okay, at all. We're focused on the structure, and we're focused on the semantics, and we're focused on the quantitative part of it. Okay, any questions?
Yeah. Any questions?